Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, I'm trying to go live. All right, I think we're live.
All right. Good stuff. Okay. How are you doing this morning, Megan?
I'm doing good. Today's the last day of school, so I'm like, yay, we don't have to set an alarm for a little while now.
Right. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
That's got to feel good.
Yeah.
This year feels like it was hard earned for sure.
Yeah. Most definitely.
All right. I'm going to pull up the presentation that I had prepped since we had a little change of plans this morning.
Okay. And I'm going to make you host so I can go hop in the car again.
Yes. That'll be helpful.
There we go. And I'll be right back.
All right. Welcome, everyone. While we're getting quickly set up, how's everyone doing this morning? You guys alive and well? Let's see. All right. One last one.
Recording in progress.
All right. We got a couple more joining. Welcome. Just starting to get everything put together, trying to make sure everybody can get in. All right. Good morning, all. Okay.
Morning.
Good morning. How are you doing, Belita?
Okay.
That's good. Everything going well for you today?
Well, yeah, I can't complain. I just have I was trying to download some a file from the bank to QuickBooks, and I guess it's too large. So I'll have to just hand input it, but otherwise I'm fine.
Yes, that's always a fun process to walk our way through. All right. Well, this morning we were going to have maybe a slightly different kind of presentation. We're working on rescheduling that. So this morning is not an intentional bait and switch. I did have some things prepared for some discussion for more options for lead generation, especially things that you guys can do from home. Our demo is going to have to be rescheduled, so we won't be able to do that one today, but we are going to be able to do that here in the coming week or two. So we'll get that rescheduled and get you guys an idea of what this particular tool can do. So there should be some fun and excitement to be had there, because I think there are a number of clients where their banks are still using dot matrix printers or having a monkey in the background to actually use a typewriter to pull statements every month or something. I don't know why that's still a thing. We've had printers for a long time. We've been using PDFs for a long time, but some of these banks have real difficulty with statements. So there's some back end things that you guys can do. So yeah, I'm a little bummed out too, but there have been a number of different things going on that created some emergent schedule conflicts. So we want to make sure that those are all resolved and everybody can focus and be fully present in the presentation. So we will still be having that, but it'll be coming up soon. It won't be today. So we will talk a little bit about some mechanisms for lead generation. So let me go ahead and share that. And I will keep an eye out. I think everybody should be able to get in, but I'll try and keep an eye out to see if anything else is going on. All right. So hopefully everybody's able to get on the call that's trying to this morning. So some things to be thinking about. We've talked at length about some of like the social media marketing aspects of getting in front of clients and getting in front of conversations. There's a lot of different ways that you can engage and use these tools. So we've talked a fair bit about Facebook and things like that, a little bit about LinkedIn, but not as extensively because not as many people are using that. That's a little bit closer to cold messaging or almost like cold calling. So it takes a lot more work, a lot more numbers of contacts in order to get into some of those good conversations. So that's where some of the challenges can come in. But the key is really building these relationships with people over time in order to allow them to understand and appreciate your particular expertise. So this is something that I think is very helpful, but it's something that's going to be it's going to be useful in the future. So you're thinking about it like planting seeds of conversations that will grow over the course of time. So it's not going to always produce immediate results, but sometimes it can. Sometimes it can get you a lot of referrals very quickly. We had talked a little bit about email marketing, and this focus, for those of you that are just getting to jump back in here, the focus for this is trying to get you guys some options for things that you can do that aren't necessarily you having to go out into the community and physically show up at meetings. So these are trying to make things as simple as possible so that you can start using and applying some of these strategies so that you can continue to be having conversations, even if you're not sort of out spending most of your time in the public square, so to speak. So we've talked a little bit about email marketing. There's a number of tools that you can use in order to continue to collect and build out email addresses. You can connect them with your calendars so that every time somebody signs up with a discovery call for you or something like that, it'll automatically log those email addresses. So that's where some of the constant contacts and some of those things are useful. There's a bunch of others, MailChimp, ConvertKit. There's a lot of them out there that help you to be able to do some of this. And the more emails you collect over the course of time, the more you can follow up with them and provide helpful tips and suggestions. If there's a post about something that the IRS is doing, hey, you might want to watch out for this. Is somebody looking out for this in your books? All of those sorts of things can get people's attention in order to produce a much better result for the marketing time and effort that you're putting in. So it's something definitely worth considering if you're not already starting to kind of build out that email list. there is a lot to be said about SEO and the tools trying to get things set up in order to be a little bit more discoverable for these search engines, and making sure that the content and design are working for you instead of against you. There's a number of ways to approach that. There's a lot of tools that can really help. There's many of them out there. Some of them are browser plugins, some of them are free, some of them are paid. There's a very broad range, but there's a lot of information that you can get from those tools to see especially how you rank against any other bookkeeping or accounting services in the same area. So those can be pretty helpful. These are things that can help you, but this is much more of a long-term kind of strategy. So this is not one that's going to be necessarily producing immediate results, but it's something that you can put some time and energy behind in order to do that. And that's one of the reasons why some of the resources that we're trying to develop for you guys will include building out of a website and helping kind of get some of this stuff set up. So there's a lot of reason to be doing some of this and getting things arranged. A lot of marketing things that we're looking at including in those packages. So another one that you can investigate is blogging, and this is we'll touch on two different ways that this can work for you. And so we've talked a little bit about how to use some of these tools to help improve the speed at which you're able to put together an article on a topic or something of that nature. Anything that is relevant to the bookkeeping topics can go on your website. There's a lot of ways to help build out SEO as you're doing that, making sure that you're using the right kinds of keywords and things. These are things that are, again, one of the YouTubers a number of years ago that I listened to described this kind of activity, putting out different blogs and things as setting out thimbles in the rain. And the more and more that you put out, eventually you start collecting a significant amount of water. But that was his preferred analogy. And so that's kind of what this does. But there's another way we'll talk about later for how you can use blogging, but use it in a much more powerful way than you posting it on your own website and sort of hoping that it gets picked up by the search engines and gets popularized. So there are some things that you can do here that are a little bit of effort. Definitely connecting with small business owners and relevant professionals. LinkedIn is potentially going to put you in front of some local business owners that you could actually then schedule meetings with, and you're going to be able to find them a little bit more directly, especially folks that are in real estate and things like that, right? Those folks are almost always interested in meeting and networking because they understand and appreciate that their life and livelihood depends on the ability to build out and grow a network. And so by and large, any good realtor is going to know a lot of other business owners. And you can ask them, hey, do you happen to know anybody that really would benefit? So something like LinkedIn could be a good way to be able to connect with a couple people that can get you in touch with the right conversations that you're missing in order to spend your in-person meeting times much more wisely. So there's a lot of really useful ways that you can do that you can use something like LinkedIn. There are also sometimes virtual networking events. So one of the things that you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of is any kind of local to you groups that are in Facebook and things like that. You want to try and get into those groups ask questions, engage with people, try and get to know them better, ask for referrals from them for other business owners they may know, if you need a yard guy or a cleaner or whatever it is, right? Any of those kinds of conversations can start getting you to be a little bit better known in the community, and start getting to know all of these people. So again, all of this is focused on stuff that you can do primarily without having to leave the home, so that we're demonstrating that there are actually a lot of options for how to do this, but there's some really, really good ones toward the end. So we'll cover a few more. Making sure that you're getting yourself listed in online directories. This is helpful, but you also want to be careful, like trying to put, for instance, your number into the 411 business directory or something, because your spam calls will go through the roof. And that's really, really not helpful. So you want to make sure that you have things like a Google My Business presence. And you can definitely get found on platforms like Upwork. So Sherry did a really intensive webinar on Upwork, and how to do that really, really well. You can also include yourself in online directories and self-list places like Yelp and all kinds of other things. So these are a lot of things that you guys can do to start increasing the number of places that people can find who you are, right? So it's not always about making sure that you're getting found, but it's about making yourself findable by the people that want to do business with you. And so the more places that you can put up your information into these different directories, and using the tools that we're teaching you how to use, even if you have to go and ask AI, hey, what are the top 10 online listing places that I need to get my business up and represented, and then give me instructions for how to do all of those things. You can do those, you can get the information very quickly, very easily, and you can make a lot of headway in the next couple months in terms of getting in front of people and being discoverable, especially in your area. So another thing that can be helpful, there are some ways that you can either host or participate in webinars. And we'll talk about kind of some creative ways to do that later, but you can also work on orchestrating events with some of the local business owners, or seeing if there are some events already being orchestrated and seeing how can you get in front of them, how can you participate in a vendor capacity. There's all sorts of things that you can do there as well. Some of those require, again, kind of crossing over that line of being out of the home to be able to do them. But if you're using that time wisely and effectively, it's still going to be worth your while, rather than just trying to meet with everybody you can and hope for the best. The idea is to make sure that you're putting yourself in a position to showcase your strengths and the services that you can offer. And the referral programs are another really, really good way to make that happen. So when people are interested in trying to get your information in front of other people because they know that they can bring in some revenue or some, whether it's a revenue share to them, it costs you a lot less potentially to have someone refer a client to you, because you're not having to go out and spend marketing dollars to try and get their attention, to try and get them to know your brand, and all of these sorts of steps. That can cost an awful lot per client, depending on how that's set up and what mechanisms you're using to reach them. So being able to put forward a referral program, right? Somebody analogized it if you're selling a product, for instance, and you tell your salesman, hey, there's a 20% commission on any additional units that you sell of this kind. it really doesn't cost you as the business owner anymore. You're not really incurring a new cost to be able to sell those units. You're just incentivizing those that are interacting with other people that might be potential buyers. You're incentivizing them to mention, oh, hey, I know this thing that could solve your problem. Right. In the same way, you want to be positioning yourself to where you are a problem solver and you become an expert problem solver in that space so that you can have people want to refer you and reward them for doing it. So 20 to 30% revenue share is not an unreasonable range, depending on whether or not you're quoting correctly. So this one starts to get into a much more powerful kind of technique, getting an idea or a list of blogs and websites that your potential clients might be visiting. So thinking about especially clients in your particular area, right? If you're in sort of North or East Texas, maybe a bunch of your clients are going to be visiting sites that are talking about things with Magnolia Farms or something, right? And you want to get in front of wherever those people are looking on the internet. You can reach out to the owners of those websites and put together some content for them and offer to write some guest posts or something on a bookkeeping topic that's relevant to their audience. And those kinds of things can actually get you quite a lot of views that you're not going to get otherwise. So thinking in terms of not how do I try and go and reach through the internet somehow to meet, a million new people to potentially bring me business. How do I turn around and work with somebody else that has already built an audience so that I can take advantage of that in order to help with the lead generation and bring clients or potential client conversations to you instead of you having to go out and chase them. You can certainly do online ads, but you want to do it not in a way where you're just sort of hoping that an agency knows what they're doing. You want to think really carefully about where the kinds of people that you want to work with, where are they focused? What media is the right kind of media to be able to reach them? Because Facebook ads might not be that for your particular audience. Google ads might be a little bit better. Even purchasing Google keywords and trying to get your website to get some additional traffic that way. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it. But that's why this isn't necessarily the top recommendation, but it requires kind of some testing to see what actually works best. Another way that's much more effective, I think, for you guys is going to be these partnerships where you're looking at businesses that are supporting your target audience, but in a different aspect. There's a lot of different audience groups that this could be representative of. And it's going to vary widely depending on sort of where you are in the country, what their interests are, and all of those sorts of things. Being able to pull some idea of what the clients are going to be doing, what some of the co-hosts, being able to co-host with some kind of events that are going on, if you can help set things up or help do some of the back end work to help facilitate a local event, and then get yourself in a position where you're helping to support other business owners, but you're doing it in a way that positions you to be helping solve some of their problems, and they're interested in hearing more about what service you provide. That's also something that can be very, very valuable. So starting to build out that network with business owners that are equally serving your particular target audience that can be very, very, very helpful. So we're working on some of those for this business, especially in the areas of marketing, to really be able to give you guys a very crystal clear plan on how to be able to achieve what your goals are. Sometimes a consultation is very, very helpful. So there's a balance between trying to make sure that a client is respectful and interested in purchasing your services by having them purchase something like a paid diagnostic review. Other times it might be helpful for some types of clients for you just to do a free consultation. We don't always recommend volunteering to do free work for things, because you're not getting into their books and doing any coding. All you're doing is opening them up and looking at what's there, looking at, does this make sense? What's going on, what's on the balance sheet? Are things negative when they should be positive? There's a lot of things that you're looking for to see if there are problems. But it allows you to demonstrate some expertise to them. It doesn't cost them anything to do so. And you can explain, okay, here's what it looks like you need. Here's how we can help you. Here's some options on how we proceed. And that can sometimes put a client's mind at ease when they have some choices for, oh, okay, well, we'll do that. Because there's some psychological process that we love to be able to say no in answers to things, so that we feel like we have control over the situation. And if they can say no to a number of options to solve their problem, and feel like they have control over picking the right solution that involves working with you, you can put them in a much better position to be in an environment that makes them feel like buying, which is an important part of this. You can also do videos, especially the sort of short form, are reasonably popular. So there's a number of ways to do this. The hard part about this is trying to get the initial traffic to these channels can be a little bit difficult. You can sort of start working with other video makers and other influencers and things, especially that are on the smaller end, to be able to work in conjunction with them. So this isn't going to be a great solution for everybody, but it might be another one for some, because again, I wanted to come up with as many possible methods as I could of growing and developing lead generation without having to be 100% in person, shaking hands, doing Chamber of Commerce meetings weekly, or any of those sorts of things. Those can be good. Those can be very helpful. But I'm trying to make sure that you guys have every possible way of thinking about lead generation, instead of just, well, you have to do Facebook messaging, or you have to do an in-person expensive networking group like BNI or something like that. So we really want you guys to be able to think, oh, I can actually be creative about the way I go about connecting with other business owners in order to serve them. So there's lots of other channels, not just YouTube, to do videos, but unless you're really into dancing, I might just avoid some of the other video platforms entirely, because they probably won't be helpful. Podcasting, this is an interesting one. So there's two different ways that we'll talk about podcasting. This first one is the idea of being able to start your own. It's a perfectly doable thing. It's something that, so long as you have a reasonable plan to execute, you can get your recordings listed a number of different places. You can do this pretty easily. You don't need a fancy studio setup to be able to do this. You can do it quite literally with a phone and do audio recordings. A lot of people like the video recordings. So part of the reason why a lot of podcasters record a YouTube video and then is because they can post to somewhere like YouTube. They have video content where their fans feel like they're getting to know a friend or whatever. They also then separate out the audio track from that and post it in all of the different podcast hosting sites. So there's a lot of ways that you can do this and get that information in front of a lot of people in a fairly short amount of time, but it's going to take time to build up that audience. So this is another one of those sort of slow growth challenges that you can try and focus on, but especially if you're talking about things that are pain points for business owners and helping point them to solutions, it's going to be valuable for somebody to listen to. So it's something that you guys can consider, but there's an alternative that I want to suggest to you. So this is just the first method. There are other advice platforms and things. So this is one that I thought was a little bit of a surprising suggestion because it's not something that I would think of. So maybe it's something that you guys also have not thought of. I would not think to provide answers in a slightly suggestive marketing sort of way to Quora and Reddit, but there are a lot of people on there that are looking to find the answer there that aren't going to find the answer elsewhere. So they're not going to necessarily look, because there are some people who spend just as much time on Reddit as others do on Facebook. So this is probably not a saturated area of lead generation for people needing bookkeeping help. But it may also take a lot of time to build up. So a lot of these methods that are primarily developed from home methods are just ones that require a lot more time. The exception with maybe some video platforms and things that you can boost views to with paid mechanisms, but those can be a little tricky. Those can get your accounts flagged. So there's a lot of pitfalls there as well, but it's something that you can definitely consider as an option. Putting together short ebook or something like that, right? There once upon a time was a barrier to publishing a book. Now the barrier to entry is very, very low. So just about anybody can put together a fairly simple, fairly straightforward ebook on a bookkeeping topic. And then depending on how you're trying to approach it, you can put it in, you can set it up and Kindle for KDP or something like that. You can do.
I think I'm gonna sign up for like half days, like YMCA, because
so there's a lot of options that you can take advantage of here, and this is one that we don't necessarily think about because especially if you've grown up in a world where there was such a high barrier to entry for being able to publish, it's something that you want to think about and consider, like, hey, if I've seen this help my business owners, let me write a short little story addressing some pain points for a client, and not using any kind of identifiable information, but just telling a story or an allegory about here's a great result about how I fixed something for a client. And this is, the title could be something about how bookkeeping saved the business and something like that. So there's a lot of ways that you can use that kind of a tool, and you can bring it in to something like Kindle Direct Publishing, and there's a lot of ways that you can use it. You can also use it as your free offer to get people's email addresses if they put it in, all sorts of things like that. So it doesn't have to be very long. Even 25, 30 pages is probably okay for a lot of things. So my apologies. So Facebook groups is certainly one that you guys have seen. They can be very, very helpful. So this one is a very, very active group. This isn't necessarily a group where your clients are going to be hanging out, but you can start thinking about joining those groups, especially for local business groups and local business networking groups, all of those sorts of things that can be really, really helpful. You just want to be participating in the community and not being very not spamming people and being overly promotional, because that'll get you flagged in a lot of different places. So that won't always be helpful. The local SEO, you can start to kind of improve, and you can make sure that your website has some of that. That gets to be a little bit deeper in the technical sections, but it's something that you want to at least be mindful of. So that's one that, again, is much more of a slow growth kind of mechanism. Making sure that you're getting reviews and testimonials from clients is also hugely helpful. So this is why you need some of those other pieces, like the Google My Business presence, maybe a listing on Yelp and who knows what else, in order to get some of these reviews to be public. And you can also share those testimonials directly on your website. So most templates have a place for that, and it's not too hard to bring some of those things in. So there's a lot of ways that you can leverage those. So another one that maybe people haven't considered carefully is creating some kind of a fun educational infographic that has your website on it as a watermark or something like that, right? There's a lot of ways to approach that, but some kind of infographic about bookkeeping, or top 3 mistakes people make in doing their own bookkeeping, or whatever the case may be. They can, if you really take the time and do a lot of design work on it, it can be attention grabbing, and it might be shared by a number of people. So again, mechanisms and things that we don't think about for potential lead generation. It's about trying to learn how to be lots more places than just 1 or 2, right? The difference between doing maybe 10 of the things out of this list and only posting on Facebook is now you have 10 different places that somebody can see or find out about you that they wouldn't have otherwise. Another one that can be helpful is getting to know influencers in that particular area. So folks that have a decent sized following, and trying to get interviews or shout outs, collaborations with them. A lot of times they love talking about what they do. So if you ask to interview them, you can definitely get some traction there. But we're going to kind of flip that on its head in one of the later examples here, because there's some other ways that you can kind of approach this. This is another one that was a little bit surprising, but it's not one that we've probably ever considered very seriously. Because again, I'm trying to uncover as many reasonable possibilities as I can to show you guys that you don't have to be doing either in-person meetings or nothing at all, or just post and hope that somebody sees it, right? So creating information presentations on particular topics, you can post it to places like SlideShare and get the information in front of people that might not find it otherwise. So this is another mechanism of being able to get farther and farther out into the internet and be present in a lot of different spaces. You can also use a lot of different CRM type tools. This is really helpful if you're having lots and lots of discovery calls. This is a little bit less helpful if you're not having as many discovery calls, but it's important to try and keep track of what you can, in terms of how many calls, how many discoveries, how many people are following up, how many do you need to follow up with, all of those sorts of things. We need to see what we've been doing and what some of the results will look like. So this is where we kind of turn everything on its head. And instead, I think this may be the most useful out of everything for you guys, is trying to position yourself to be the one that gets interviewed as a guest. So look at the people that are in your network and find out if any of them are already doing podcasts, blogs, or YouTube channels. Those are much more common things now than they were 10 years ago. So that's something that you can just ask people, hey, do you know anybody that has a podcast? I'd love to talk to them. There are a lot of list platforms, Podcast, Guest, and Matchmaker FM are a couple of those. And you can create a profile and get matched with folks that are looking to have guests on their shows. You want to make sure that you're ready and have thought through what you're going to say, because if they ask you, hey, what do you do? You're going to want to have a good answer for them. So another one is the idea of guest blogging. And so there are some websites like Guest Post that can help you connect with people that are looking for content to go onto their website. And so there's a lot of ways that you can get in front of people that way. Another one that people probably haven't thought about very much is this site called Help a Reporter Out. And you can get in front of journalists and become sort of an authoritative source for them, so that they can get information, get up and get an interview potentially with them. You can help answer questions and give them some detail. So these are all different kinds of things that you can do that are creative and going to get you in front of audiences that you wouldn't necessarily be in front of otherwise, which is going to help drive leads, the more of any of these things that you do. And then social media engagement, particularly with influencers and creators, and even trying to talk to them directly. So you might try some of the folks that don't have millions and millions of followers at first, but someone down in the 10,000 or so range is much more likely to be able to respond to you, and that's an awful lot more people than you would be in front of otherwise. So a lot of things to think about. So in the context of the lead generation and some of the things that we've talked about, I'm curious to hear how some of you guys' conversations and interactions are going. Has anyone gotten an opportunity to have some wins over the last couple of weeks? I know for us, we've had some calls. We haven't necessarily had a lot in the way of sales closed this last week, but we certainly have had a lot of discovery calls. So I'm curious to know how things are going for you guys.
As far as I have learned that I need to ask more questions about the person's business,
Mm-hmm.
and get to know their business a little bit more, so that I can be able to do their bookkeeping better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that absolutely is a vital thing, partly because you're trying to get as much information as you can from them. So this is ways that hopefully you'll be able to incorporate more questions in the conversations, and as you start seeing and interacting with more and more business owners, you start seeing more things in the books for different clients. you'll be in a position to be able to better ask, oh yeah, I need to ask about, are their accounts receivable caught up or something, right? It might be a small question like that, that can really give you a lot of information. And that can be the difference between you being on a good footing versus a really rocky footing with that particular client. Because it can put you in a position to underquote if you don't know, oh yeah, absolutely. They had 100 invoices that were still outstanding on the books, and some of them were paid but nobody matched any payments, or nobody made bank deposits for them, or any of those kinds of things can create a really big headache and a lot of work. But you need to know to ask, hey, what areas of your accounts are caught up, what areas are a mess, who was handling it, or maybe they were doing stuff themselves, and especially if you're in a conversation and they've been doing the books themselves, or they've had their dear Aunt Lisa do it or something, right?
Because I found out though that also what we look at as bookkeepers and the owner is different, because they think, oh, we just did this, we had this a credit card machine that we accepted credit cards with. Well, when you ask them, do you have a credit card? They say, no, we don't have anything. So I've learned that a lot of times, don't be afraid to ask questions, because we're trying to help them and we don't know their business like they do. So that's what we need to, and that's what I found out this week to do.
Yeah, that's absolutely a helpful lesson for everybody to remember, because it is really, really important to make sure that you're asking good questions and getting clarification if something is unclear. Because there's a lot of things that will be easy to miss, and they are looking, as the business owners, they are looking at something other than what a bookkeeper is going to, because the training is different, the goals are different. They're trying to make sure, especially if you have a business owner that's doing running their business on bank balance accounting. So they look and they're like, well, there's money there, so I can do this, that, and the other thing, but they're not thinking about cash flow. There's a lot of headache that can come out of that too. So yeah, very, very good to be very, very good to be asking good questions. Awesome, Debbie. That's pretty exciting. That works. That should be pretty exciting. Hopefully that goes well. It's always
I'm
fun.
definitely rooting for her.
Right.
Close it.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. She would probably benefited from the sales process call we did in the other group, in the support group last week. So everybody was pretty excited about that. I think that one was, people were finding pretty helpful. So I wanted to try and think of something that I could provide to this group that would get you guys thinking differently than if I'm mostly stuck at home because of whatever reasons, then I can't really network. Sort of, yes and no. There's lots of ways to be creative, but that's what I wanted to encourage you guys with this week.
Yeah, but it does go back to planting seeds, right? The lady that referred her to me, I had contact with over a year ago. And I get this referral call out of the blue, and I'm like, oh wow, cool. So yeah, don't give up. Keep putting it out there.
Yep, that's right. That's why I'm gonna often continually encourage you guys to go back and understand what it is to be thinking like the ant, to be thinking about the next season from the season that you're in now. So most everybody kind of makes the mistake of sort of bank balance accounting with the time and resources that are in front of them, instead of thinking down the road about, okay, if I put all of this work and effort in, some of those seeds will grow, some of them won't, but I don't get to control which ones do and don't grow. All I know is it's my job to plant as many seeds as I can, so that when it comes to harvest time, I don't have, I'm not worried about whether or not there's going to be something to harvest. So that's something that I think will be helpful for folks to carry into the conversations, because at that point, you're not thinking about conversations in terms of, well, that was a waste of a half hour or something, right? Because it may not actually have been. It may actually have been something that a year from now, you'll hear back from them. And we hear that all the time. So that's why we're encouraging you guys to try and think of how many of these you guys can use to be able, going forward, to continue planting seeds in as many different areas as you can, so that you are in a position to, when the harvest comes, be able to take in all of the clients and referrals that are going to happen. So you could end up in a position where you end up with 3, 4, 5 clients all of a sudden, just like that, from the same mechanism. And it might be a time like May is sometimes when some weird, unusual stuff like that happens during the summer, because people get back from vacation. They go, all right, I'm just going to solve the problem. I'm going to give them a call or something, right? You don't know, you don't have control over that. But you want to position yourself where your information has been everywhere that they're looking, and they go, oh yeah, I need to call that person, right? So the more of that you can do, the better practiced you are at doing that. I think you guys are going to be much, much better able to get in front of a much larger audience and start taking advantage of some of those referrals and things that will come your way. So hopefully that part was helpful to you guys. Any other wins or excitement from the last couple of weeks? All right. If not, go ahead and make sure you guys are keeping current on the one-to-ones. Like I said, we are going to be rescheduling the demo for this particular software that I think is going to help some of you guys with the difficult clients and statement issues, any of those sorts of things. So we will be doing that. It'll just be a little bit delayed. But definitely make sure that you guys are using and taking advantage of your one-to-ones, especially if you're going to ask even questions about stuff like this, about lead generation. How can I do more things to get in front of people? How would I go about doing some of this stuff? If you need somebody to be your creative partner in crime, make sure to use them, because that's literally what the group is here for. Make sure that if you're in a position where you're ready to kind of start growing to the next level, you're considering seriously joining the group. Make sure that you're considering seriously joining the support group, because it's something that can help give you some of the extra tools, like the sales process, like some of the webinars that we're doing for different client particulars. Those can give you all of your detailed topic information for some of the things like guest blogs, interview material, stuff to talk about, really, really, really stuff that can help benefit you and put you in a position where you're planting more and more of those seeds, so that you can harvest all of that later. So it's not always stuff that's going to be an immediate return, but that level of support behind you is really going to position you guys well, I think, to be very successful. Megan, I know you've been driving. Any other thoughts on your end?
I don't believe this was great, and definitely, like y'all said, keep planting seeds, because I got a call like 30 or I guess an hour or so ago from a potential that I had never talked to before, but it was from a Facebook ad, like adding as friends on Facebook. So
There you go.
you never knew.
Yep, you never know. So activity and action is going to bring results of some kind. The work doesn't just go into the ether and go nowhere. All of that effort goes somewhere, and the hard work will produce something, but you have to be willing to put in the hard work first. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, be sure to be posting questions if you guys have something that you think of afterwards. Questions about, hey, how would we go about doing this, implementing it? Be sure to post in the group, follow up, or get on a call with one of us and see how else we can help you, because we want to be seeing you guys be wildly successful. That's our goal. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions. So thank you guys. Hopefully it was helpful.
Thank you. It was helpful.
All right. Take care, guys. Have a great rest of your week, and let us know what questions you have down in the comments below.